准备要开始切你的画面了。
好。
嗯，可以。
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's live session. I'm Lisa of VCBeat, and I'm delighted to host this discussion with our guest speaker, Daniel Eriksson from Sweden. First of all, thank you for joining us here to explore this trending topic globally, sustainability in healthcare. It's an innovation area that connects medical and life sciences with technology, environmental studies, and other areas of knowledge. Healthcare systems worldwide are facing growing demands, not only to provide high quality care, but also to reduce environmental impact and optimize resources and embrace more innovation. Today, we are honored to bring you insights from one of the leading voices in this field, Daniel Eriksson, CEO of the Nordic Center for Sustainability Healthcare. Daniel has been driving sustainable healthcare for over 20 years, leading projects across Europe and beyond. In 2015, he founded the Nordic Center for Sustainable Healthcare, which now connects nearly 200 members from 25 countries. His work has helped hospitals, medtech companies, and medical systems worldwide move towards greener and more efficient practices. China will be playing a more pivotal role in achieving global sustainable healthcare. How can we access more opportunities in this field and navigate the complexities of sustainable transformations? Stay with us to find out the answers and leave your comments or questions in the chat. In today's session, Daniel will first give a presentation on why the Nordics are front-runners in sustainable healthcare and why it matters to all of us. Then we'll move on to an interview to contextualize this topic in China. Without further delay, let's welcome Daniel to give us the presentation. So Daniel, once again, thank you for joining us today. The stage is all yours.
Thank you very much. I will just get my presentation up. And here we go. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's an honor to speak to such a big and important audience through the network of VCB. So thank you very much for inviting me. My name is Daniel Eriksson. And as you heard, I've been working with this for over 20 years, started working with sustainability at the university hospital. And after that, for over 20 years, I've been working with healthcare sustainability pretty much all over the world. About us, Nordic Center for Sustainable Healthcare was founded in 2015, so we celebrate 10 years. Before that, we worked a lot of projects through the organization TEM at Lund University, the REISA Foundation. New for this year is that we have put some of the work we're doing in a limited company together with some investors, and that is totally new for this year. So from now on, we will do more projects and these kinds of things within the foundation and have a more commercial side through the NCSH services. What do we aim to do? This is what we wrote back in 10 years ago, me and my colleague Johannes Brodin, who is my co-founder. We wanted to raise awareness of sustainable healthcare. And that we can see has happened now. Sustainable healthcare is a topic globally these days. We wanted to boost innovations and investments in sustainable healthcare. We want to bring the best practice and knowledge to the Nordics and want to deliver world-class solutions to the world. And we do this through many different means. We do projects, we do delegations. This is everything from green hospitals in India to events in Canada to we do events in the US and with different partners. So we have done a lot in the last 10 years and we will do a lot more in the next coming 10 years. Here are just some of the projects we are working on, so you get a little bit understanding of what we are talking about when we're talking about sustainable healthcare. One project is about green design, about sustainable single-use items. In this case, actually, that is produced in China, but the eco-design development we have helped with here in Sweden. We're working with a project together with European partners from 8-9 countries in Europe on how to decarbonize healthcare in the EU regions. And in Europe, it's the regions that often are the responsible actor or association for hospitals and healthcare in the different settings around Europe. We work with a project on greening the European kidney sector. We're working on a project on how to design a more systemic approach to education and training in sustainable healthcare. And within that project, for example, next week, there will be an autumn school at the Technical University of Delft in Netherlands. So this is just some examples of the things we're doing. As we heard, we have around 200 members, and we have members from all sectors. We're hoping to get Nordic members, of course, that was the main idea, but the interest was so much bigger than that. So now we have members from India, New Zealand, we have members from South Africa, Canada, US, and all over Europe. Malaysia, we have members in Singapore. So the interest for sustainable healthcare is growing very rapidly around the world. And as you can see, we have both companies from the MedTech sector, life science sector, we have regions, hospital, even state agencies as member. And we believe to get all these different stakeholders under the same roof. We're going to focus later. Sustainable healthcare is a very vast topic, and maybe we narrow it down a little bit to environmental issues. And this photo I took myself, actually. It's a medical waste ground in India. I won't tell you where, but this is not how to work with sustainability in healthcare. Of course, many of the solutions and the way we work in the Nordics and Europe and China can be a very good help in these countries when they are trying to achieve a more sustainable practice in healthcare. The main problem is that healthcare services stress the environment quite a lot, actually. First, due to its size. If you look at Western Europe, around 10% of GDP, the total GDP, is healthcare. In US, it's up to 16-17% of GDP is healthcare. So just due to its size, it has enormous impact. And then we will add on pharmaceuticals in the environment, the chemicals we use, the single-use items, the exhaust from the incinerators, incinerating hospital waste, etc. We can see that the healthcare service has quite a stress on the environment. And a lot of this environmental stress can actually lead to ill people getting sick that need more healthcare. So this is a little bit of a vicious circle we try to break. So the big dilemma is this: how do we balance the earth towards, providing care? And we also see that we somehow have some shared resources globally. And the healthcare, how we produce healthcare, differs a lot between developing countries, middle-income countries, and developing countries. And if developing countries would have the least possibility to reach the level of healthcare that we have, then we in the Nordics and in Europe and the US and developing countries might need to reduce our impact so we leave room for those developing countries. So we need to make healthcare a little bit more sustainable. And here are just some of the topics that we address. And pharmaceuticals in the environment is becoming a more and more bigger problem in the world, and it's addressed a lot. And it's not only from the production side, it's pharmaceuticals that go through the bodies, and then we are not very good at getting rid of those pharmaceuticals from the wastewater, and we can see in nature everywhere now that we have effects of pharmaceuticals. We have the buildings, how we build, operate, energy efficiency. We have different types of chemicals that are used in healthcare, but also in products. We have the whole supply chain, who is producing the things we're using, under what conditions, and what environmental impact do the supply chain have. We have logistics, we have single-use items, and we have climate, for example. These are just some of the topics that we need to address when it comes to healthcare sustainability. And one of the problems when looking at this that is very, very complicated, it's a very vast network of stakeholders that need to be involved. We have the health industry, of course, and we have the component manufacturer, we have the providers, we have the patients. But then everything that needs to be involved in influencing or putting legislations and so on. So we have all the NGOs, we have policymakers, we have regional national authorities that comes with goals and instruction. We have different distributors, installers that need to be on board. So it's a very complex system working with healthcare sustainability, many different stakeholders that need to be involved. And in some cases, we also see that we get contradicting messages and organizations don't really know what to do and what's the right thing to do in some cases. We also believe that sustainable healthcare doesn't belong to one sector. We have traditionally worked in those silos. We're working with construction or life science, MedTech, clean tech, normal companies, food industry, ICT management, and architecture. Sustainable healthcare goes horizontal over all these old silos or old industry. It's not construction, it's when you construct sustainable hospitals. Sustainable healthcare is not life science, it's life science with good environmental performance. It's not medtech, but it's medtech with good environmental performance. All clean tech are not sustainable healthcare, it's clean tech with applications for healthcare and so on. So even looking at this, it makes it a little bit complicated. It's not one industry, it belongs to several industry, or as we like to put it, we see healthcare sustainability as a new industry. We see it as a new research field and a new innovation arena. And that we can see with a lot of new innovations that coming, new companies and startups within this field. They don't identify themselves as working in life science or medtech or clean tech or ICT. They work a little bit with everything. So this new industry of sustainable healthcare is coming on quite fast, we can see. And there, we can even see the interest from investors and so on. And here in Europe, there are now several funds or venture capitalist investors that frame themselves working towards healthcare sustainability and sustainable healthcare as a new industry, as a new research industry. Just boiling down to one of the issues we discussed before, just looking at the climate impact from healthcare. There are different reports on this, and some say that healthcare is like around 4.4% of the global total emissions. Some say 5.5, 5.8. And the exact number is not maybe interesting, but it is a lot. So if you're looking at the global impact, healthcare industry has a huge impact, and that spans from the production, from the raw material extraction to operating hospitals and waste management. So maybe around 5% of the global climate impact is from healthcare. That's quite a lot. And we compare it, this is a comparison with EU, so it might not be translatable to China. But in EU, around 3% of the EU's total greenhouse emissions are from aviation. And we talk a lot about aviation when it comes to climate. But healthcare is most likely bigger than aviation when it comes to climate impact. So what are the climate issues in healthcare we're looking at? The number one, and different studies, for example, from Greener NHS in UK, the National Health Services in the UK, they stated like 60-70% of the climate impact is from the procurement, it is from the supply chain. So this is roughly the size order. It's not science, it's me that put this up. But if you're looking at the size, depending on what country you are and what energy you have, etc., differs. But most from procurement. Then you have facilities, the building processes, how you construct, how you do the things. Different refrigerants, they're used in heat pumps, in cooling, and so on. You have food, you have anesthetic gases. Anesthetic gas has quite a high climate impact, but we don't use that super much compared to procurement. We have the logistics and transportation. We have a little bit of business travel and patient travel. But here is the main things that we need to focus on when it comes to climate in healthcare. A few years back, we did a little study, and this is not a major study because the Nordics aren't that big, but this is a questionnaire sent to all the sustainability directors at Nordic university hospitals. We asked them, what are the most important thing to work with right now? What is the status? How good are you at it? And where are going to invest the next coming years? And number one, if you're looking at the Nordics, in this case, was pharmaceuticals in the environment. And that is a major topic here discussing that. And there's a lot of projects going on. But also because some of these things we're quite good at today. We're quite good at managing water and waste and clinical waste. We've come pretty far. The second thing is procurement, supply chain, then climate, green building design, etc. And you can see here where they say that we're going to invest. So we have investment budgets and so on for working with sustainable healthcare and doing those procurements or investments in buildings and so on. So if you see, for example, transportation and the materials, and you see procurement are where you're going to do bigger investments when it come to healthcare sustainability. So for our organization, for a company, what should you do when targeting sustainable healthcare in the Nordics, in Europe, or globally? You need to have two thoughts in the head at the same time. You both need to contribute to healthcare sustainability on one side. That's a positive side. But you also need to adapt to existing ecosystems and legal demands. And this might be trickier than you might think. Contributing is all the things, producing things that are making a better impact or reducing something. So we can use less waste or less pharma, more resilience, less CO2 emission. We can work on carbon capture, availability, less materials, circular solutions, better materials, and so on. That's contributing so the healthcare industry, the hospital can become more sustainable by using the solutions you provide. But you also need to adapt, and this is a bit of a tricky part because the legal demands and the legal is more or less the baseline in some countries. We have a lot of regions and hospitals that have demands, goals that go way beyond legislation. So you might think that you are following, the different legal or doing you're following all the legal demands in Europe, but different regions might have more than that. They can say, for example, some regions are PVC free. They don't want to procure anything containing PVC, and that means that even if following European legislations, you will still won't be procured in some regions because they have goals and standards that go beyond legislation. But you need to follow the national legal legislation on waste and chemicals, energy, and so on. But also, depending on where you are, going to NHS now, green NHS, they are from now demanding climate calculations on products being sold to UK, for example. So you need to have the climate impact calculated for entering that market. Other regions, Europe have different demands and goals and instructions. So this is a little bit of a tricky part to get this overall view on what are the demands, what are the things we need to work on today and tomorrow. We did a trend report, and as I understood, this might be translated into Mandarin. But we did a trend report. We do it every year, and the last one, a little bit sneak peek. What we see in the next coming years is that there will be more sustainable healthcare. The ball is rolling, so to say. The interest globally is so big today, so it will never step down, depending on political changes in the world. The companies has adapted this. The regions have goals. There are legislations. So there's no going back here. There will be more sustainable healthcare demands in the future. We see trans-sectorial collaborations, and that goes a little bit according to the silos I described. In many cases, one company can't do everything. We need to get knowledge between the different. We need to get. It's too complex for one actor to act alone. So we need experts from many silos, from many hospitals, from many that work together. It is impossible for one hospital, one company to solve this alone. So we need transsectorial collaborations. Practical implementation. There are a lot of visions and strategies and stakeholder, roadmaps. If you're looking globally from the global organization working with sustainable healthcare and in some case hospitals, and we have had that for many years. And people are a little bit tired of that. So now it's practical implementation. You need to do something that actually make a change. Just have a vision or a roadmap doesn't count anymore. You need to do things for real. And we see also that there will be a lot of business opportunity in this. In some cases, there are niches that needed to be filled with companies and solutions. We often say, or I say, it's like an 80-20 rule in this. 80% of healthcare sustainability at the hospital is someone buying something, installing something, procuring something, renovating something. 20% maybe is how you change the behavior or the practice and how you conduct it more organization-wise. So 80%, and of course that will mean a lot of business opportunities. And then we have a lot more, and then we also have what we call the micro trends. What are the smaller things that we say are coming quite fast? And it's a lot of different things. We see energy, a lot of hospitals and regions together with others going towards local grids and self-sufficient systems. We have plus energy hospitals now that produce more energy than they consume. We see reprocessing is gaining traction quite a lot in Europe. We're actually scale up single-use things with different business model. Basically, you can use it again. It could be tools for surgery and so on that you can reprocess and use it again instead of getting new raw materials. Plastic, there's a lot of products in Europe about phasing out, reduction, reuse, replacement. Chemical substitution. Some countries like the Nordics, we have got rid of the worst chemicals over the years. This is ongoing work since 20 years, but it's spreading now all over Europe, and that's chemical substitution as getting traction in Brussels for all over Europe now. Local production is a growing trend, not at least after COVID, where a lot of hospitals, had big problems for single use, not, coming from the boats that were standing still. So there's a lot of discussion, and that also goes with reprocessing and local production. So you have the supply chain, no matter what happens in the world. We see quite a lot of legislation advancement, even putting energy demands on MedTech. We say sustainable cooling is coming quite fast because the cooling demand is increasing due to climate change. When it comes to pharma and MedTech, it has had a little bit of a status at the hospital. They don't really touch it. And pharma has their own legislation. It's not considered to be chemicals, but this is changing now. And you see pharmaceutical will be treated as any other chemical. And it's starting to happen now. And MedTech will face the same energy efficiency demands as other industries and the same demands on reducing single-use items connected with it or materials and so on. We see proof of climate claims. There have been a lot of climate from everywhere in the world, but now we want to see proof of those climate change. Do you have LCAs? Collaborative market solutions coming quite a lot. We see it that we are not one company with one solutions. Someone want to procure a green laboratory or a green clean room or a green OR with those different solutions in the same. We also see waste as a resource. That is also quite a big trend. They are focusing on using the waste as a way to save money and support circular models. Can we get those waste back as raw materials in the circular loop? So there's a lot of things happening. If you want to see some of the solutions that are in our network, you can go to worldsgreenesthospital.org. It's a fictive hospital that we constructed that we will fill with 100 green solutions in the end, solutions that exist today and are available on the market today. And the demand we have one international arena for green products from all over the world, but otherwise, one idea is that the solutions should be installed somewhere in the Nordics at the Nordic hospitals. You can get a reference from that. I also want to invite you to the 7th Nordic Conference on Sustainable Healthcare that we have here in Malmö, Copenhagen. I'm based in Malmö, and for you who don't know the geography here, We have 20 minutes over a bridge to Copenhagen, so we're very close to the Danish capital, even if we're based in Sweden. And this is the 7th time we're doing this conference. We have some very interesting speakers, sponsors, exhibitors, and we try to get the stakeholders from all over Europe. The conference, all over Europe, all over the world, I would say. We have speakers from, last year we have participants from Asia to North America, and so it's getting bigger and bigger. The conference is on November the 12th at Malmö Arena. But the whole week we have quite a lot of interesting side events. And I just want to pinpoint one, this hackathon with big buyers working together on the 13th. That's actually a group of the biggest procurers in Europe that is pinpointed by European Commission to work on better procurement from on a European scale, focus on healthcare sustainability. So it's quite a powerful group from a European perspective. And also here on the Tuesday is one also European project with procurers on pharmaceuticals and sustainable criteria for pharmaceuticals. So there's just some of the things that are happening that week. So the Nordic way, this is my last 4 or 5 slides here. We did a white paper a few years back together with the Nordic Ministry Council, and the white paper was, why is the Nordics quite good at this when it comes to healthcare sustainability? We are very good at this, and I would say the Nordic countries together with Netherlands are the ones that have come furthest when it comes to sustainable healthcare, is my view. Other countries are coming quite fast, like UK and even Spain and so on, and Singapore is doing a lot. But still the Nordics and Netherlands together are front runners. And why is that? Number one, we call it culture, politics, legislations. We have quite a sense we want to do the right thing. And for you, I'm based down here, so very close to Copenhagen over the bridge. Everyone has a relation to nature. We had the first environmental protection agency in the world back in 1960s. So we have long traditions on working on legislations and demands on sustainability. We have something called trust. It's called the Nordic Gold. The Nordics, we trust the state, we trust each other, we trust in a handshake. So if we're discussing something on sustainability, we believe that it's the good thing to do. We trust the ones that tell us. We're quite strong in legislations. And politicians can make quite unpleasant decisions in the Nordics, and we might not agree, but we will comply. It's different in other countries in Europe, but people will protest more, but we are quite obedient here in the Nordics. Of course, we have hospitals in the forefront, where public procurement has been a strong tool. We have management where sustainability is present. Where we have organization, and already 15, 20 years ago, when I was working at the university hospital, we had the 250 environmental coordinators at the hospital I work with that I trained, that were part of doctors, nurses, that we trained to be part of this environmental organization. We have systems for environmental performance, management system, chemical management system, statistics on almost everything. We have test beds, reports, etc. The third thing is system solutions. Building a hospital in the Nordics, it will be one of the greenest one in the world just by being built in the Nordics. And that's because we have the system in place from the municipality, from the city. We have district heating with low climate impact, district cooling, national recycling programs, regional biogas digestion. From the hospital I worked at here, you take the food waste for a hospital to the municipality biogas digester, make it into biogas, and the hospital cars drive on that biogas. So those systems are in place: clean energy, clean water, clean transportations, unions, work safety, all those things. So most of the systems are in place, and it's systems that are outside the hospital, but make a good positive impact for the hospital operations. Since we have been working with this for many, many years, there have been business solutions. We have companies that need to, find solutions to the demands the hospital have. So we have a lot of companies with innovative solutions on sustainable healthcare. It's MedTech with good environmental performance. It's clean tech with solutions for healthcare. Some of this quite small for at least Chinese or an Asian point of view, because they've been operating on a market with 25 million people. So that's have been the market. And now all of a sudden, US wants it, India wants it, and so on. So we have a big problem of those pretty small companies with very good innovative solutions that are now basically too small to meet the global demand, and trying to scale by going into the UK market, the Netherlands market, and Polish market. But the global demand is much bigger than they in many cases can provide. We have authorities to promote and fund innovation, testbed, and so on. We have outside hospital technology, so innovative company. The last thing is that we have quite a holistic view on sustainability. It doesn't mean a new age holistic. I mean that we are looking at the whole hospital as a system per se. So most hospitals work with all sustainability issues. We work with chemicals on a high level, waste, energy, how we construct, all on quite a high level. But we are working with all issues, so we might not be best in everything. I usually say that we are top 5% in everything when it comes to healthcare sustainability, but we might not be best in anything, because there's always a hospital in the US that are world champions in cardboard recycling, or a hospital in France that have 100% green roofing or so. But we are very top in everything. So we have a holistic view. We work with all sustainability issues at the same time. Thank you very much for your time, and do contact me if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Daniel. It's such an insightful overview of sustainable healthcare. I'm sure our audience will be gaining a lot of it has gained a lot of knowledge about the multiple aspects of involved in approaching this topic. And my next task is to contextualize this topic in China. And we appreciated that you have already mentioned China a couple of times during your presentation. So the first question is about commercialization. So I understand in your work with the Swedish innovation agenda and the EU related projects, there have been a lot of innovation in this field, but what are the key breakthroughs? And are they perhaps the low carbon medical equipment or digital energy management systems? How advanced are they in terms of commercialization? And because for a lot of Chinese MedTech companies, especially the small and medium-sized, they will be interested in knowing the feasible opportunities for near-term adoption, implementation, and collaboration. So can you elaborate more on this?
Yes, I showed you the world's greenest hospital.org, on the online fictive hospital we have. And the criteria to be there is that it's commercially available today. It's nothing in the future. It's something that's commercially available today, and you can actually go and see it live in a hospital. So there are plenty of hospitals. And the idea here is that you can build the greenest hospital in the world with existing solutions today, because it exists. So that's on one hand. On the other hand, of course, there are a lot of innovations that are, on the verge of being commercialized. We had a meeting the other day with they had a contrast fluid, for example, that was made of food. So when you're doing X-rays in the abdominal, you would use a food-based contrast fluid instead of chemicals, basically. So all of those are on the verge of being commercialized. So I would say it's the whole span of solutions. From those there are have been installed in. And also, I would say it depends also on the market. Some of the are commercially available in the Nordics, but are totally new in other markets. And we have, for example, we have a nitrous oxide destruction. Use nitrous oxide for delivery and other things. And 1 kilo of nitrous oxide equals 300 kilos of CO2. So it's quite high climate impact. And we have had solutions from, I think it's 2 Swedish companies that have solutions for that. And this has been installed in Swedish hospitals for 20 years, the first installation. So it's a very common technology in Sweden. And you take those 300 kilos of CO2 and make it zero, basically, because you have this nitric oxide disruption built into the system. A couple of years ago, that was introduced in UK. And in UK, it was a total new innovation. So BBC came and did a show on the first climate neutral delivery in UK. So in UK market, this was totally new innovation that BBC came to make a piece on. But in Sweden, it's 20-year-old technology that's been installed everywhere. So in some cases, it also depends on the market. And I would say one of the problems with these innovations, if you just look in, now we have members from all over the world, of course, but if you're looking at those innovations from the Nordics, one of the problems is that those companies, in some cases, are a little bit too small yet to meet the global market. They have solutions and they have organization and their production for a market of 25 million people that we are in the Nordics. And we did some projects in Uttar Pradesh, for example, in India, and there are 250 million inhabitants just in the region of Uttar Pradesh. So for those Swedish companies that all of a sudden want to go just to one region in India, that's 10 times bigger than the current market in the Nordics. That means that they need to have a 10 times bigger production, 10 times bigger, everything. And that takes time to scale. So I think that is one of the reasons why some of those innovations don't go global as fast as they could.
Oh, that's very interesting to know. And for these innovations to go global, do you see areas of collaboration between China and Nordic countries to boost, to increase the manufacturing of these products?
Yes, I see. I see that as the only way to go forward. If you're looking at the two biggest markets in the world, it's China and India, and I see the only way forward for those solutions is to have some kind of joint partnership and local regional production. And when we're talking about local production as a coming trend, local production is everywhere in the world. It's not that we should produce locally in the Nordics instead of China. It should be the other way around also. Solutions for China should be produced in China. So that trend with local production to have safer supply chains, basically, that goes both ways.
Oh, great. But also Chinese company have a lot of advantages, such as the supply chain cost advantage and the knowledge of the local market and the local manufacturing capacities. Do you think that there are aspects of Chinese market that this Nordic enterprises or companies are interested in for collaboration, like a joint R&D opportunities, or the implementation of these technologies locally in China?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there is, and I can't speak for the member companies. We have member companies with 3 employees, and we have member companies with 300,000 employees. So and many of them have production and collaborations in China already. If you're looking at the bigger companies, as I mentioned before, one of the projects we're doing on single use items, the production of that is in China. But the development is in we are developing new materials, and then the production of it will be in China. So many of these things are already in place, of course, and we have a lot of companies that have both production and R&D. But as I said, those bigger markets like China and India, I think it's quite impossible for those SME Nordic countries or European countries to even go there, even if they have a solution that is, there is a demand for in India. We can't scale the production. So some kind of joint venture is needed to target those markets. And from our point of view, we want to get those innovative solutions that reduce waste or reduce CO2 or reduce. We want them to get global market as soon as possible, because our idea from the Nordic Center is to lower the global impact of healthcare. Yeah, I would say yes to that question in short.
That's great to know. Okay, moving on from commercialization to environmental audits. And you have led a lot of projects and delegations in many countries on sustainable healthcare. And in terms of the environmental audits of the healthcare facilities, what are the specific capacities should the Chinese hospitals or healthcare companies focus on focus on strengthening if they want to align with the Nordic standards, whether to expand into the Nordic or the European market to implement or implement them a higher sustainability benchmark in China?
Yeah, that's interesting you asked that because I have been working with different ISO system over the years and different management systems on. And in the last years, we have developed our own NCSH method, and it's more focused on implementation rather than building management system. And we have tested that in Serbia, all over Europe and in India and so on. But it goes from the local conditions. You can't say that one technology is better than the other. It depends on the hospital. Where is it situated? Do they have district heating or not? What year was the building built? What is the ventilation system? Is it in the desert part of China, or in the rainforest part of China, or in the snowy mountains of China? Very different solutions and need and dependent on who you are. Even we're looking here at the Nordics, the difference between a hospital in Southern Europe, Spain, Italy, or the Nordics. Do you have snow in the winter? What is the temperature? Or if you're going down south, they have a whole other season with very, very hot summers. So other solutions. Then, so you can say that we are worried about sustainable heating. Others are worried about sustainable cooling. So that could be the difference then. But then when you go to medical devices and procedures and how you perform the healthcare or OR and those kinds of things, those are quite similar all over the world. It differs less and less. So even if you go to a remote hospital in India, they have roughly the same equipment as a Nordic hospital would have for when they have the same type of MedTech machines and so on. It's quite similar. And there, of course, there are many things that you can copy and paste from what a Nordic hospital has done. And there are hundreds of those smaller things that you can work on. So it will take a couple of more days to go through them all, but there's a lot of those smaller things that can easily be copy-paste back and forward. But for the whole building itself, it depends a lot on the building, where it is and the conditions and what the status is today. So in our we do those types of NCSH method audits. Then we're looking at the actual hospital, and then we have a list of best practices, and then we see in a short, medium, and long term what are those best practices that you can actually implement in this hospital.
Okay, that's a very important perspective because it very much depends on the context, the local environments, and depends on each case for the hospital could be different from the other. But talking about public procurement, especially for hospitals, do you see are there stricter and stricter criteria in terms when it comes to environmental audits, when it comes to sustainability audits on sustainability?
And what type of audits do you mean now for procurement?
Like when the big procurers in Europe
The
are they
audits
setting?
in the factories and so on. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's quite implemented today. And what is happening there is it gets more and more systematized when you do a supplier audit in Asia, for example. So in Sweden, they have, for example, as an example, they have divided the different regions have a responsibility for one product category for the whole country. And then they go, for example, to India to see how I don't know scrubs are colored, and then they do it for the whole Nordics. And the reason behind this is, and I would say those audits on suppliers is the Nordics, UK, Netherlands are a little bit driving this, but those demands are getting more and more common in other countries as well. And the reason for this, in Sweden at least, is already 20 years ago, there was a TV show. They did a investigative TV show on the supply chain of Swedish healthcare, and it was mainly in Pakistan and India, I think, maybe also Bangladesh. And there was very poor conditions on the production of supply to Sweden. And that led to a lot of things and legislation and so on. So now that is quite controlled, so to say. What is happening now, we can see, is you go beyond working conditions and local environmental impact and so on. Then you also look at the climate impact. So, for example, greener NHS in UK, that is their bigger thing, that they will putting climate demands or CO2 calculations on the suppliers. And they do that for bigger suppliers now, and will go to smaller and smaller suppliers. And those calculations are in Sweden. We have seen similar things, but on pharmaceuticals, for example, that all the pharmaceutical company was obliged to provide environmental data on persistence, bioaccumulation, and toxicity, as you would do for any other chemical. And that happened already 10 years ago. So it's getting deeper and deeper, and not the audits are going more and more towards next level, so to say. Can you use the material again? Is there a circle solution? What is the climate impact? So it's going more and more in line with the goals they have. Short answer for a very complex question.
It is complex. And now moving on to even something maybe even more complex, the policies and regulatory requirements. So when you manage the EU sustainable healthcare projects, in terms of the environmental standards or data compliance, should the Chinese companies be mindful of and some aspects if they want to participate in these multinational initiatives? Or do you have any practical advice for the potential Chinese suppliers for the European markets?
I mentioned that in my presentation. I think this is what is quite complicated for suppliers from China, but also from US or Canada and so on, when they're going to the European market, that we have legislations that you follow. We have the REACH legislation on chemicals, and we have rules on RoHS on materials, and we have a WEEE directive on waste and so on. So those legislations exist, and now there are more legislation also on looking at the supply chain and so on. So you might think that following these legislations that you would be home free, but in many cases you're not, and that's where it gets complicated, because some national legislations might go further than the EU legislation. So if EU said you should implement a reduction of 20% of something, then Sweden might say, we go for 25% instead. And then it means that even if you then complying with European legislations, it might be tougher for the Swedes. And on top of that, we have regions. In Sweden, we have 21 regions that do their own procurement. They can have their own demands. They can say that they are PVC free, or they want to have a lower energy consumption on a medical device. Norway, for example, they have the same thing, but for the whole country. They have one central procurement organization for the whole of Norway. And then you go to UK, that is not EU anymore, but UK, they're putting demands on climate and so on. So there's a quite a scattered market with different demands that can be quite tricky to keep track on in some cases. My advice is look it up. It's complicated, and you need to know what the trends are, and what will be the next things people looking at in the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because the demands are getting tougher and tougher, and they go beyond legislation.
And that's the next question. If we look ahead, what are the trends in the next 3 to 5 years, and where the opportunities could lie for kind of in terms of maybe global trends? Could it be digitalization, decarbonization? Where could it be the core growth driver in this new industry, as you mentioned?
Yeah, and I had some of those in my presentation on the global trends. And of course, decarbonation is one of those. You want to lower the climate impact. One is reducing waste in different waste, having solutions that produce less waste, solutions that can be recycled or reprocessed and used again, because everyone wants to reduce the amount of waste because it's expensive, it's a lot of resources, and so that is a big trend. Coming to digitalization, in some cases, digitalization have a very positive climate or environmental impact. But when it comes to digitalization, I also usually stress that the biggest impact, positive impact from digitalization are those hospitals we don't have to build. I saw some numbers somewhere that in China, in India, they're going to build 1,400 new hospitals. And if you, by digitalization, reduce the number to 1,100, so 300 hospitals you don't have to build, then you will have, the bigger impact from digitalization. And at least here in the Nordics, we all often, oh, it's so good with digitalization. So an old man doesn't have to, take the car to the hospital back and forward, and we save some, CO2 from that. But that's the little thing. That's the small thing, and it might be good. But the bigger thing is those hospitals in developing countries that we don't have to build because we can, add on digital solutions. So the physical meeting is not as big as possible. And other trends that I will see, as we discussed, is also those joint solutions, where as I said, this is very, very complex. They said before turnkey solutions. It's not really turnkey solutions, but maybe several suppliers collaborate to a system instead. Because you don't want to, procure the tools, the sterilization, the room, it's very, very complex if you're going. So those who are providing a more of a system solutions with various different products in it, I think will be winners in this. And also have the, what do you call it? Feel where the wind is blowing, so you get understand what is happening the next coming years. What are the trends in this? What are the chemicals we don't want? What are the metals we don't want? What are the plastic components that we won't want in a couple of years? But the overall trend is, if you're not working with sustainable healthcare today, you really need to start, because if you're not being asked by your procurers today, you will be asked tomorrow. They want to know what materials you have, what plastics, what is climate impact, can you recycle it, what's the energy consumption. If you're not asked today, you will be asked tomorrow. So you need to keep
Do
track
you
of it.
see this trend as irreversible?
No, it's some things are just happening now. You can look at the car industry. You can say 10 years ago, electric cars is just a trend. Combustion. Yeah, but what has happened? Do we really think that will move back? No, because the whole system is changing towards that. And it's the same when you're looking at sustainable healthcare, just looking at things like simple things, waste and recycling of waste and so on. You build systems around that, so you have someone that can take this cardboard and do new cardboard of it. And when you have built those systems that support sustainable healthcare, it's very hard to change from it. So once you're taking these steps, it's not reversible, I think. I think we will have more sustainable healthcare in the coming years, no doubt about it.
Oh, that's very, very insightful. And I already feel the urgency of going sustainable in healthcare. I know that you and your team are preparing for the Nordic conference for sustainable healthcare. What are the key themes of this conference this year? Are there any changes from last year?
And one of the One of the thing is we can say last year we had a plenary panel with some high level people from the Nordic ministries and so on, and we have the title was the Nordic as a global leader in sustainable healthcare. This year I think we have a question mark. Are we still? Because others are, and also the last plenary we have the I think is interesting, and it's the Swedish word samsyn. It doesn't really exist in English, or we have a few Swedish words that are taking off in the world, and we think this word samsyn is one of those. How do you create a global samsyn? And samsyn means that you look at the same thing, you agree on a way to look at something. So you working in the same directions, for example, when it comes to pharmaceuticals, and you're looking at the same direction. So you don't have 100 different solutions or ideas on how to work on them. Create a common understanding on the direction. We will have a planner. I think that is interesting because we need to have a common understanding and have an idea of the direction, so everyone can comply with their products and their solutions in the best way.
That's a very interesting word. And I believe after today's discussion, a lot of people will have more common understanding with you as well.
Yeah,
and I think it's also time for us to wrap up today's session. Thank you so much, Daniel, for sharing your expertise and so much knowledge and global experience with us today. I think in just 1 hour, we really covered a lot of ground, from challenges, opportunities, and especially we focused on China and potential Chinese and Nordic collaboration and in what areas. At VCBeat, we'll continue report and share insights on sustainable healthcare and follow the conference and sharing with more Chinese audience and globally. And if any of our viewers, if you're interested in the topic and in attending the conference, please feel free to reach out to VCBeat. Finally, a big thank you for all of the audience for joining us today. And I hope it's inspiring you to think more about and delve into this topic more. And as we see how it's becoming irreversible and how we are at a point to moving faster in that direction. So thank you, Daniel, for joining us. And until next time, goodbye to all of the audience. Stay healthy and stay innovative. Thank you for following VCBeat. Bye, Daniel. Bye.